Thank you all very much for attending this morning's briefing. Hope to make it a very exciting morning for you all. Right, I'm going to kick off this morning. Quick overview of economic highlights. You will know most of what's happening in Vietnam. Vietnam very much on the radar at the moment. Everyone is talking about Vietnam from a regional and almost global point of view. Very exciting times for the country. So where we are, CPI, this is the first quarter figures. So CPI coming in, the target for the year 4% for 2017. For the first quarter we've achieved and gone over that figure and coming in at 5%. FDI, big numbers on FDI from 2016. We've now seen a great start to 2017 and registered FDI up 77% in the first quarter. We're going to see another very strong year in FDI in Vietnam in 2017. International tourists, last year you would have seen big numbers on international tourists, up to 11.5 million for last year. Again, a very strong start to this year, and up already 29% year on year. Credit growth target for 2017 is 18%. Personally, I think that's going to be a little bit difficult to achieve. What we're expecting to see, some of the banks starting to tighten, certainly some of the local banks are going to start to cool, maybe bring in some cooling measures in the second half of this year. GDP growth target for the year 6.7%. Q1 is coming in at 5.3%. Just in terms of that FDI, what we've seen so far this year, $311 million going into real estate, into 13 new projects. You'll see the top 4 countries there, Korea, Singapore, China and Taiwan leading the way. In terms of the top ranking sector, manufacturing is still dominating the FDI in Vietnam. So how does Vietnam fit from a GDP point of view on a regional basis? This is the most exciting part about Vietnam at the moment, where we are compared to our sort of Asia Pacific counterparts. If Vietnam achieves 6.7% this year, this will be the first year that Vietnam will overtake China. This is a big sort of milestone if this happens, because I think it really demonstrates that Vietnam is on the radar, which is why we're seeing a lot of foreign investors coming into the market. Quick note about infrastructure. Obviously, infrastructure is sorely needed in Vietnam. We're now seeing, this is over the past 10 years, some of the major infrastructure projects that have taken place over the last 10 years. Some pretty big projects, Phu Bridge, Saigon Bridge, Two Tiem Tunnel. All of this infrastructure is doing one thing, and that is pushing the city. Most of the infrastructure is concentrating to the east of the city, which is really helping the sort of connectivity to the east. We're seeing a big push now from CBD into the east, so Two Tiem, District 9 is receiving a lot of interest. Just a quick note about that infrastructure and why infrastructure is so important. It's really because we are seeing large increase in car sales and also in motorbike sales. So last year, car sales in Vietnam up 24%. It's very noticeable for anyone that sort of lives and works in the major cities in Vietnam. Car sales in particular, it's very palatable. You can see it almost on a daily basis that the numbers are significantly increasing. Also, we're still seeing large volumes of motorbike sales. So what does that mean? It means that we're seeing very strong congestion and a number of hotspots now throughout the city where congestion has become pretty interesting. And it makes it very difficult to cross the road if you're in that situation. So it's becoming a real issue for the city. And you only have to look at other Southeast Asian cities such as Bangkok, Jakarta, Manila, where they are having gone through the same process and experienced the same thing. Trying to get around those cities now is incredibly difficult. The other part of the equation is that what we don't have in Vietnam at this moment in time is a public service. So the bus network and the shortage of sort of separate bus lanes is very, very apparent. So even if you are on a bus, you still get caught in the congestion. So it doesn't really make sense. Quick note about the office market, where we are today. So current supply, total supply, this is for all sectors, 1.8 million square meters. Again, I think this needs to be taken into context. If you put that on a regional basis, we've got Singapore at about 6 million square meters and Jakarta at about 5 million square meters, so still way behind in terms of our sort of counterparts on a regional basis. Again, a quick heat map about what we're seeing trending. If we go back to 2010, predominantly all the development happened in the CBD and sort of surrounding areas of the CBD. Fast forward to today, we're starting to see a little bit more disbursement of office developments in the surrounding areas, District 7, Nha Bay, and now pushing out to District 9. Moving forward to 2020, you'll see the general shift is all about moving to the east of the city. This is where we're going to see all the activity over the next 5, 10, 15 years. So occupancy rate at the moment, I was having a quick conversation with a few people before the presentation. Occupancy rates pretty much at an all-time high, nearly 96% on grade A office supply in Ho Chi Minh at this moment in time. What we expect to see, there's 2 new office buildings coming through later part of this year, which is Saigon Centre Phase 2 and Deutsche House. That will have a little bit of an effect on occupancy levels, but personally, I'm actually disagreeing with our market research here a little bit. I don't think it's going to have that much of an effect. Our market research team are quite conservative, and I think they've shown a little bit more of a dip than I would personally think will happen. So I expect to see occupancy rates continue pretty much in the same vein. 2 new office supplies. We're already seeing strong pre-leasing commitments in both those new office developments. So I expect to see that occupancy level remain pretty much in the 90s and mid-90s. Grade A rents flatlining pretty much, but at a very healthy level of $38 plus. Very, very strong grade A market at the moment due to that lack of supply. We thought we'd just give you a comparison of how the grade A market is comparing to the grade B non-CBD market, because I think this is important of what we're really discussing today. So grade A you've got at $38 and has been averaging that for quite a number of years now. If you go to non-grade A and non-CBD locations, you could be on average looking at about $15. That's a big, big decrease depending on your strategy of your company, depending on the work style and who the company that you actually are. You could be saving $20, $25 per square meter. That is a huge saving on your overheads on a monthly. How does Ho Chi Minh fit in on a regional basis? You can see based on a regional basis, and if you would compare it to perhaps KL and Bangkok, which is what I would, the 2 markets where there would be some comparison, Ho Chi Minh is still a very expensive place to operate as a business and for obviously those grade A rents. So this is why we're seeing a little bit of a shift in terms of due to the cost and the land values in CBD locations. It's very, very difficult for developers to actually A, find the land, B, acquire the land at a reasonable price, and then make it a viable development for office. So this is why we're seeing this lack of supply in the market, which is why we're now seeing sort of decentralized offices. So the new top industries that are coming into the market, financial sectors, insurance and IT companies. The great news is about Ho Chi Minh at the moment, and Vietnam in particular, is that we are now seeing a lot of new companies coming into the market. That FDI is really sort of working its way through. So in terms of new setups for offices, we're now seeing over 50% of the market coming in from new companies. Very, very different to previous years, certainly over the last 5 years. So this is a very positive sign for both developers and I think for the economy in general, because we're seeing a lot of activity for these new companies. So this future supply, we're facing for this year 127,000 square meters, which is again a fairly small number when you compare to the market that we're dealing in. So the 2 Grade A office buildings coming to the market this year, and then we move on to 2018, 60,000 square meters, very little supply coming through. Then 19 onwards, then we start to see a little bit more supply. But note that 173 is from 2019 onwards, so there's a little bit of a moving target there. So that new supply coming through, Deutsche House you will all be aware of, Saigon Centre Phase 2, E-Town Central in District 4, and then there's a really, really good development in District 9, OneHub Saigon. Quick word about metro lines. How do metro lines affect how we work and live and play to a certain extent? There's a number of benefits. This is a World Bank, this has come from a World Bank report of how metro lines change the way that we work and we live. So what it does in the short term, near term, it obviously increases the connectivity. You get accessibility into other areas that we weren't previously looking at. The demand increases, and we start to see new development happening throughout sort of the proposed network of metro lines. Then we start to see a behavioural shift. This is going to be a very interesting part about Vietnam, in my belief, is how people start to react once the metro line is operational. And will the local population continue to use a motorbike because it's slightly more convenient, or will they make the shift to the metro line? This is going to be a very interesting sort of case study of what we're going to see over the next sort of 3 to 5 years when the metro lines start to take operation. My belief in the early stages is that we're going to see a limited number of people using the metro line because of that connectivity. We're only going to have one line. You need to have more connections and more connectivity, so that the network needs to get larger before we see real large volumes of people using the metro line system. The very positive part about Ho Chi Minh and metro lines is that they're doing it now. They haven't waited for the traffic system, the congestion within the city to reach absolute gridlock first. We're seeing the metro line system before we've reached that critical point. So I think it's a very positive point that we're actually seeing a sort of fairly proactive government in implementing these metro line systems before we've reached that sort of gridlock. Some of the points, what we've done for this particular presentation, we had a quick survey of some of our market research teams around the region, and some notes there from what we've seen in Jakarta, Manila, Bangkok and China. The general observation is that metro lines, there doesn't seem to be negative feedback in terms of metro lines. They create much more connectivity. The development that happens on the metro lines is very, very noticeable during the planning stages and the construction stage, and then obviously once they've been developed. So the feedback on a regional basis, which is what will happen in Vietnam, is very, very positive. This is an interesting map that we've tried to sort of demonstrate how a metro line system has changed a city. So this shows you in 1980, this is Singapore in 1980. So you can see, it's a little bit difficult to see, but basically the general theme is that you can see very little development happening around the periphery of the island. Once the metro line system went in, we start to see all the tentacles coming out, development activity happening right throughout the city. Now Singapore's a little bit of a sort of exceptional case because it's an island and land is fairly limited. But I think this demonstrates that once the metro line is developed and built, you just start to see the development happening throughout the metro line system. So yesterday I was in Singapore, in One North, which is apparently, I think 20 years, we don't have a photo, but 20 years ago was effectively a swamp. Now if you go to One North area in Singapore, it is a vibrant, buzzing metropolis of offices, universities, the shopping centres. The general feel in this area is very, very vibrant. So this is what happens once a metro line goes through. I think I touched on this earlier. The shift, and this is taken from the master plan until 2025. The general shift from a city master plan point of view, it's all about, so the primary development, the priority corridors are all about the south and the east. Now the south, you would say, with Saigon South in particular, and Phu My Hung, what they've done in District 7, have already sort of started that process. What we believe is that east will be a much more prominent sort of area for development over the next 10 years. I'm sure all of you have probably seen this before, but this is how the metro line system will look once it is up and running and developed. This is the 6 lines that are proposed, which looks fairly impressive. When I come from London and worked in London for 10 plus years, this is how the London network pretty much looks. And this was built 200 years ago. So you're going to get a very, very impressive city with a very strong connectivity once all the metro lines are developed. Where we are in terms of the metro lines, as you will know, Line 1, officially we're being told it's 72% complete. Line 2 has actually started construction, started in January 2015. I think it's a little bit difficult to see the sort of how much activity has been done. And Line 5 has got funding approved by mainly German Reconstruction Bank and Spanish government. Lines 3, 4 and 6 still waiting for funding. So this is how a very quick, I'll try to do this really, really quickly. The construction progress on Line 1, and this is pretty much real time. I think this is within the last 3 months these photos are taken. This shows you how that development activity is taking place, and we are getting close to the construction phase. So we're at 70%. I think we're going to get close to getting the testing on the overground section within the next 12 to 18 months. Now, what has happened on the metro line since the metro lines were announced and everyone knew where the metro line was going? What we have seen is a considerable amount of development along the metro line. So from CBD right out to the end of the metro line, over 70,000 units, this is residential units, have been launched in the last 4 years. That's nearly 40% of all stock in Ho Chi Minh launched along the metro line. This just shows you the power of the metro line and how people want to live and be connected to the lines. This is my favourite slide of all, and I hope will give you a good idea of what we think the metro line will bring. So what we've tried to do, our very educated market research team have come up with a very long equation to come up with this amazing sort of statistics. So we've taken the general speed of the metro line, and then on a good day, so this chart here, this one over here, this shows you on a good day when the traffic, no traffic on the road, the sun is shining, it's a beautiful day, you've got the wind blowing in your hair, you're feeling very, very good about life. This is when you start to take off. So if you did the whole metro line on the motorbike, you do it in 25 minutes. This is a really, really good day. You're feeling very happy. You get to the office and you're very perky. And you do a very productive 10 hours in the office and then you go home again. If you did it on the metro line, 20 minutes. So the next case study is that we've taken the congestion moves up a notch. You're getting a lot more motorbikes and cars on the road. Sun's still shining, so you're still fairly happy, but you know there's a lot more congestion, a bit more pollution maybe. You've got to put 2 or 3 masks on and all that sort of thing. So the travel time increases on the motorbike to 40 minutes. Metro line obviously stays the same to another 20 minutes. Then we notch it up another gear. You've got thunderstorms, you've got the rainy season, you've got 3 foot deep of water underneath you, you've got your poncho on and you can't see what's going on, you're going to have to wear goggles and a snorkel and God knows what else. 55 minutes from door to door. Metro line maintains the same sort of pace of 20 minutes. And I think this is key about that transition from motorbike to metro line. Fundamentally, once the metro line is up and running and the costing has been set and it's very easy and accessible, we believe the metro line will take over from the motorbike. Just a quick word about business parks, and I'm not going to go into this in too much detail because I know William's going to sort of go through some case studies. But what we are seeing in the market, and I think this is very, very important, is that we're seeing a change, a complete change in workplace evolution. So if we go back to 1993, in Vietnam, we had shop houses. So generally most people, if they were coming into Vietnam looking for office space, they would have to go to a shop house. In 1993, we saw the first office building. VTP Tower on Wing Way was the first office building in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh. And then we started to see in 1996 Grade A office supply coming to the market. So Saigon Centre, the first Grade A office building coming into Ho Chi Minh. Then we saw Kum Ho in 2009. And then we started to see a little bit of a more sophisticated office building coming to the market. LEED standard in 2013, and then from 2016, what we're starting to see is this co-working, creative hubs, a lot more exciting office space coming into the market. So this is a new trend that we're starting to see, not just in Vietnam, but around the region as well. So I think the message is that Vietnam, whilst we still have a fairly immature property market, it is catching up very, very quickly with what's happening around the region. So we expect to see in the next 5-10 years this evolution of workplace sort of strategy, as we would call it, move much, much quicker in Vietnam. So we're going to see some very interesting movements over the next few years. So what does that mean? And it really means this is being driven by occupiers. So one of the surveys that we've done recently, this is on a regional basis, not just in Vietnam. On a regional basis, occupiers are becoming much, much more demanding. They require a more productive place to work. So 60% of respondents, they want their people to be much, much more productive. The traditional office space needs to start accommodating these occupied demands. Business productivity, very important, workplace productivity, and obviously the asset productivity as well. But it's all about productivity, and companies, certainly large multinational companies, are really looking at how they occupy their space and making sure that they can tick a number of these boxes. So what's next? What we're going to see, we believe, over the next 5 years is the connectivity between work, play, live, shopping, and being eco-friendly. So a combination of all of these things. We think this move from just going to the office to do your 8 hours a day and then going home again is a little bit traditional, it's a little bit old school. What we're looking for now, a lot of occupiers are looking for these dynamics, these various dynamics. So when their employees go to work, they are surrounded by sort of creativity, they're surrounded by shopping centres, activities where they can exercise, and this eco-friendly environment that is definitely becoming part and parcel of our workplace. So I think that's pretty much all from me. I'm going to hand over to William, who's going to give us a quick overview of business parks and some case studies. So thank you very much.